He never noticed her until the day she stopped trembling, and by then, it was already too late to become invisible again. The blood on her hands wasn't supposed to be there, but when the mafia boss's eyes locked onto hers across that kitchen, Angela knew three things. He'd seen her kill to save him, he'd never let her disappear again, and the rival family hunting her had just made their biggest mistake. This is the story of how being invisible to an Italian mafia boss became the most dangerous thing she'd ever survive. As we continue, click subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comment where you are watching from. Your support helps us bring more thrilling stories, and trust me, you won't want to miss them. Now, let's continue in the story. The kitchen of La Fortuna was my hiding place, and my sentence. Steam engulfed me as I submerged another tower of plates into water hot enough to scald. My fingers burned raw beneath thin rubber gloves. The symphony of Italian curses from the line cooks, the clatter of copper pans, and the muted laughter of Manhattan's elite from the dining room above, creating a familiar chaos that had become the rhythm of my survival. Angela, 2 waters, for the mezzanine. Marco, the floor manager, barked as he shoved through the swinging doors. I nodded without argument, not bothering to mention I was hired to scrub dishes, not serve tables. At La Fortuna, the most exclusive Italian restaurant in New York, everyone did whatever kept the empire running smoothly, especially those of us at the bottom of the ladder. Just let me finish this section. I peeled off my soaked gloves, dried my hands on my already damp gray apron, and grabbed a crystal pitcher from the service station. My reflection stared back from the polished stainless steel of the walk-in refrigerator. Blonde hair falling out of its hasty bun, shadows carved beneath eyes that used to hold ambition, a smear of tomato sauce on my jaw. 26 years old. Looking 40. This wasn't the culinary dream I'd carried to New York in my battered suitcase. But dreams don't cover rent or your brother's medical bills. The dining room existed in another dimension. Chandeliers dripped golden light over mahogany tables dressed in white linen. The air tasted of truffle oil, aged wine, and money. The kind of money that never worries about next month. I kept my gaze lowered as I navigated between tables of gorgeous people in designer clothes who looked through me like I was part of the furniture. That's exactly how I needed it. Invisible meant safe. As I approached the mezzanine staircase, the atmosphere shifted. It was subtle, like air pressure dropping before lightning strikes. Without lifting my eyes, I could feel a weight pressing against me. Assessing, calculating, deciding. "Your water, sir," I murmured, setting the pitcher carefully on the glass-topped table. "Look at me." The command was quiet, almost conversational, but it filled every inch of space between us. Deep, controlled, with an edge that suggested disobedience wasn't really an option. My body obeyed before my brain could intervene. My head lifted automatically. He sat alone at a table meant for 4, positioned to survey the entire restaurant below like a general watching his battlefield. Tailored pinstripe suit that probably cost more than I made in 6 months. Dark fedora tilted at an angle that managed to be both elegant and menacing. Tattooed hands rested on the table, intricate designs creeping from beneath his cuffs and collar. Beautiful and dangerous. Strong jaw, lips that looked like they'd forgotten how to smile, and a presence that made even the expensive furniture around him seem small. But it was his eyes that caught me, held me, dark and unreadable, studying me with an intensity that made my pulse hammer against my throat. I apologize, sir," I stammered, though I had no idea what I was apologizing for. One eyebrow lifted slightly. For what? The question disarmed me. People at La Fortuna didn't ask questions. They ordered. They were consumed. They left. They definitely didn't engage with kitchen staff, for I trailed off, heat flooding my cheeks. For whatever I did wrong, something flickered across his face. Amusement, maybe? Or curiosity? Will there be anything else? My voice sounded strange, too high, too uncertain. That depends. He leaned back slightly, that penetrating gaze never wavering. Do you always look like you're running on empty? The personal nature of the question shocked me. No one here noticed people like me, let alone commented on our exhaustion, our worn-down edges, our survival mode existence. I'm fine, thank you. The lie came automatically, smooth from years of practice. I didn't ask if you were fine. His voice remained soft, but something beneath it made my skin prickle with warning. I asked if you always look exhausted. Yes. The truth escaped before I could cage it. I always look like this. He nodded once, as if I'd confirmed something important. What's your name? Angela. Angela. He repeated it slowly, and somehow my plain, ordinary name transformed into something that mattered on his tongue. Bring me another glass. No ice this time. I retreated down the stairs, my legs unsteady. In the relative safety of the service station, I refilled the pitcher with trembling hands. What had just happened? Why had he singled me out? Why did it feel like I'd just been seen for the first time in years? And why did that terrify me? Marco materialized at my elbow, his face drained of color. Do you have any idea who that is? He hissed, nodding toward the mezzanine. I shook my head. Willie Johnson. The name dropped like a stone into still water. Owns this place. Owns half the city, from what people say. And probably owns things no one talks about. The implication hung heavy between us. Just serve him and get back to the kitchen, Marco whispered urgently. Don't make eye contact again. Don't give him any reason to remember you. I climbed the stairs again, this time keeping my gaze fixed on the crystal pitcher as I placed it on his table. Thank you, Angela. My name again. Deliberate. Claiming. I turned to escape when his voice stopped me. You dropped something. I glanced back, confused. I wasn't carrying anything except the water. He held up a small cream card between two fingers. Your tip. I don't accept tips. I'm not a waitstaff. Take it. Not a request. A command wrapped in silk. I reached for the card, expecting him to release it. Instead, his fingers held firm, forcing me to meet those dark, consuming eyes again. This close, I could see they weren't just dark. They were a deep brown that seemed to hold secrets and violence in equal measure. Until next time, he said quietly, finally releasing the card. I mumbled something incoherent and fled to the kitchen, clutching the card like it might burn through my skin. Only when I was safely locked in the staff bathroom did I examine it. Not money. A business card. Heavy stock, expensive, with just a phone number printed in dark ink. No name, no company, nothing else. I flipped it over. Blank. My shift ended at midnight. I shoved the mysterious card deep into my jacket pocket and gathered my things, exchanging exhausted goodbyes with the closing kitchen crew. The November night cut through my thin coat as I stepped into the alley behind La Fortuna. I wrapped my scarf tighter and began the 15-block walk to my apartment, too broke to justify a subway fare for such a short distance. The city never truly slept. Traffic hummed, sirens wailed in the distance. I kept my head down, keys gripped between my fingers in the defensive posture every woman learns. 3 blocks from the restaurant, I became aware of a car moving slowly alongside me. Black. Expensive, tinted windows too dark to see through. My heart rate spiked. I quickened my pace. The car pulled ahead and stopped at the curb. The rear door opened. Every survival instinct I possessed screamed at me to run when a large figure emerged. Not Willie, but someone from his world. Tall, built like he spent his life moving heavy things, with a face that suggested he'd seen violence and caused plenty of it. "Miss Lupton," he called, his voice surprisingly gentle for someone so imposing. "Mr. Johnson would like to offer you a ride home." I glanced around the empty street, calculating. "No, thank you. I prefer to walk." The man sighed as if my response was both expected and tiresome. "It's late. This neighborhood isn't safe for a woman alone." "I do this every night," I replied, trying to sound confident instead of terrified. "Not anymore." A different voice. From inside the car, despite every instinct screaming at me to run, I found myself drawn forward. One step, then another, until I could see into the shadowy interior. Willie Johnson sat there in his tailored suit, fedora now resting on the seat beside him, those dark eyes fixed on me with the same intensity as before. But now there was something else in them. Something that looked almost like concern wrapped in command. Willie Johnson sat alone in his private office long after La Fortuna's last customer had departed. A glass of bourbon rested untouched on the mahogany desk, condensation pooling around its base. Through the one-way glass, he watched his cleaning crew move through the dining room below, their movements efficient and invisible. He replayed the scene for the 100th time, Angela stepping between Lorenzo and Stefano, her voice cutting through their aggression with quiet authority. No fear, no performance, just action. It irritated him how much it mattered. He'd built his empire on emotional detachment, on control so absolute that nothing could touch him. After Isabela's murder 5 years ago, he'd sworn never to feel again. Control was his religion, his armor, his survival. Yet this woman, a kitchen worker whose name he'd had to ask Marco for, had cracked something he'd thought permanently sealed. He pulled her employee file from his desk drawer. Sparse, Angela Lupton, 4 months at La Fortuna, always punctual, never complained. Emergency contact. David Lupton, brother. Willie reached for his phone. Meanwhile, Angela walked home through streets that smelled of trash and November cold, keys gripped between her fingers like claws. She was unaware of the black sedan trailing 2 blocks behind, or the 2 men inside who'd been ordered to ensure she arrived safely. Her apartment building sagged against its neighbors like a drunk leaning on friends. She climbed 4 flights of stairs. The elevator had been broken for months, and unlocked the door to her studio. Peeling wallpaper. A radiator that coughed more than it heated. A futon that served as both couch and bed. Her phone buzzed. David. "Hey, sis, physical therapy got rescheduled to twice a week now. Doc says I'm making progress. Can you cover the copay?" Angela opened her banking app and stared at the balance. The number stared back, accusatory and insufficient. She typed a response she didn't mean. Of course. Don't worry about it. The weight of inadequacy pressed against her chest like a physical thing. The next morning, Marco intercepted her before she could reach the kitchen. "Angela, you've been moved to day shifts. Boss's orders." She blinked. "What? Wait." Day shifts were coveted, reserved for senior staff, easier hours, better conditions. She needed evening shifts specifically because they paid slightly more for overnight cleaning duties. "Don't ask questions," Marco said nervously. "Just be grateful." But Angela wasn't grateful. She was suspicious. During her new day shift, the kitchen hummed with its usual controlled chaos until Willie Johnson walked in. The effect was immediate. Chefs straightened, conversations died, even the sizzle of pans seemed to quiet. His presence commanded gravity. He walked directly to her station. "Your name is Angela Lupton." Not a question. "Yes, sir." She kept her eyes on the dishes, heart hammering against her ribs. "You prevented an incident yesterday." "I was just doing my job." "Your job is washing dishes." His voice was smooth, dangerous. "Not managing my staff." She finally looked up, meeting those dark, consuming eyes. Someone had to. The boldness of her response surprised them both. Willie's jaw tightened. He was accustomed to fear, deference, obedience, not quiet challenge. After a long, charged silence, he said simply, "Report any further disruptions directly to me." Then he left, and Angela realized she'd been holding her breath. Over the next few days, strange things happened. A new winter coat appeared in her locker with a note. "Winter is coming. Management." Her walks home felt different, safer, as if unseen eyes watched over her. Marco treated her with unusual deference. Other staff members whispered when she passed. She was no longer invisible, and it terrified her. Invisibility had been her protection. Late one evening, as she left through the back exit, a black sedan idled in the alley. The rear window rolled down. Willie sat inside, his face half-shadowed by streetlight. "Get in. I'll drive you home." Not a request. Angela's instincts screamed danger, but something in his expression, a loneliness that mirrored her own, made her hesitate. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Willie's gaze darkened. "Because I can." She didn't get in the car. She turned and walked away, feeling his eyes on her back the entire 15 blocks home. And for the first time since Isabela's death, Willie Johnson felt something he thought he'd buried forever. The ache of wanting something he could not simply take. Willie's discreet interest became systematic surveillance. New cameras appeared throughout La Fortuna's kitchen, ostensibly for security, but positioned perfectly to capture Angela's station. Late at night, alone in his office, he reviewed footage frame by frame. The way she moved, economical and precise. The rare moments she smiled at a co-worker's joke. The exhaustion that settled into her shoulders as shifts dragged on. Vincent, his head of security, finally spoke up. "Boss, this is crossing a line." Willie's response was ice. "I didn't ask for your opinion." Angela visited David at the rehabilitation center on her day off. Her brother sat in his wheelchair near the window, sunlight catching the optimism that somehow still lived in his 23-year-old face, despite the car accident that had stolen his ability to walk. "You look stressed," he observed. She forced a smile. "Just work stuff." But she couldn't shake the sensation that her life was being quietly rearranged by invisible hands. Pieces moved on a board she couldn't see. "Oh, weird thing," David said casually. "Some anonymous donor covered 3 months of my therapy costs. Can you believe that?" Angela's blood turned to ice. She knew exactly who had done this. She stormed into La Fortuna an hour before her shift, demanding to see Willie Johnson. 2 suited men escorted her upstairs to his private office, a space of dark wood, leather furniture, and understated menace. Willie sat behind his massive desk, unsurprised by her entrance. "You paid for my brother's therapy." "Did I?" His tone was maddeningly neutral. "I don't accept charity." "It wasn't charity." He leaned back, studying her. "Consider it a bonus for your dedication." Angela's hands trembled with rage. I don't want your money. I don't want your attention. I just want to work and be left alone. Willie stood, circling the desk with predatory grace. He stopped close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and dark, like smoke and cedar. You think you're invisible, Angela. You've spent your whole life perfecting it. His voice dropped lower. But I see you now, and I can't unsee you. The new sous chef arrived during the afternoon staff meeting. Marco Leone was everything Willie Johnson wasn't. Charming, handsome in an effortless way, with an easy smile and genuine warmth that filled a room without demanding it. You must be Angela, he said, extending his hand. I've heard you're the backbone of this kitchen. It was innocent, friendly. Angela, starved for normal human interaction, smiled back. From his position across the kitchen, Willie watched. His jaw clenched so tight something in it cracked. That night, alone in his penthouse overlooking Manhattan's glittering sprawl, Willie poured bourbon he wouldn't drink. He knew what he was becoming. Obsessive. Possessive. Exactly what he'd sworn never to be again. After Isabela's death, he'd eliminated every weakness, every vulnerability, every soft edge that could be exploited. But Angela had become a crack in his armor. He told himself he was protecting her, that his world was dangerous and she needed safeguarding. But the truth sat heavy in his chest. He was terrified of losing her before he ever really had her. Angela lay awake in her apartment, staring at water stains on the ceiling. She wasn't naive. She understood what Willie Johnson was. She'd heard the whispered rumors about his family business, seen how men deferred to him with fear rather than respect. She should quit, disappear, run. But she needed this job. And more disturbingly, there was a part of her, a part she hated, that felt seen for the first time in years. Dangerous as it was, Willie's attention had awakened something she'd thought she'd buried along with her culinary dreams. The next morning, a small gift box waited at her station. Inside, an expensive chef's knife. Her initials engraved on the handle in elegant script. No note needed. Marco walked by and whistled. Someone's got an admirer. Angela's stomach twisted. She glanced toward the mezzanine where Willie stood in his tailored suit and fedora, his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. The obsession was no longer subtle, and everyone was starting to notice. Over the following weeks, Marco and Angela developed an easy friendship. He treated her like an equal, asked about her culinary dreams, brought her coffee during brutal double shifts. There was no romantic intent. Marco had a girlfriend back in Boston, but the connection was genuine. For Angela, it was a relief. Someone who saw her as a person, not a possession or a shadow. Willie noticed every interaction. Each laugh Angela shared with Marco felt like betrayal. He began manufacturing reasons to separate them, sending Marco on unnecessary errands, changing shift schedules, even drafting termination papers he never signed. Vincent finally confronted him. You're losing perspective, Willie. This girl doesn't even know how you feel. Willie's response was venomous. I built this empire from nothing. I crushed men who tried to take what's mine. She's no different. Vincent left, shaken. He'd never seen his boss this unraveled. The gifts escalated. A designer coat appeared in Angela's locker. An envelope of cash slipped into her bag. A key to a renovated apartment Willie had purchased for staff housing. Angela refused them all, which only deepened his obsession. She was the first person in years who couldn't be bought or controlled. During a staff dinner at La Fortuna, Marco casually mentioned he was cooking Angela something special for her birthday. Willie overheard from the mezzanine. His knuckles whitened around his wine glass. After service on Angela's birthday, Marco presented her with a beautifully plated pasta dish, handmade tagliatelle with brown butter and sage, garnished with edible flowers. Something he'd created specifically for her. The kitchen staff gathered around, singing off-key. It was a rare moment of warmth in the brutal restaurant environment. Angela's eyes welled with tears. Genuine gratitude. Marco hugged her, platonic, brief, meaningless. From the kitchen entrance, Willie watched. The glass in his hand shattered. Blood dripped from his palm, but he didn't flinch. Vincent rushed to him, but Willie pushed him away with his uninjured hand. "Get Marco Leone out of my restaurant. Tonight." Willie stormed into the kitchen, his carefully maintained composure finally shattered. "Everyone out. Now." The staff scattered like startled birds. Only Marco and Angela remained, confusion turning to fear. Willie's voice was deadly quiet. "You think you can touch what's mine?" Marco's eyes widened. "Boss, I don't—" "You're fired. Leave before I do something we'll both regret." Angela stepped forward, horrified. "He didn't do anything wrong." Willie's gaze snapped to her, and she saw it clearly now, not just jealousy, but possession bordering on madness. "You don't get to defend him. You don't get to choose him over me." For the first time, Angela's fear transformed into anger. "I'm not a thing you own, Mr. Johnson. I'm not yours. I'm not anyone's." The words landed like physical blows. Willie's face hardened to stone. "Get out." "What? You're fired too. Both of you. Get out of my restaurant." Angela removed her apron slowly, deliberately. She looked at Willie, really looked at him, and saw beneath the power and control to the broken man underneath. "You're so afraid of losing control that you're destroying everything around you," she said quietly. "I almost felt sorry for you." She walked out, Marco following. The kitchen fell silent, except for the hum of refrigerators and Willie's ragged breathing. Willie destroyed his office. Overturned desk. Shattered glass. Torn papers scattered like snow. Vincent found him hours later, sitting in the wreckage. "I need you to have her followed, protected, every hour of every day." "Willie, I don't care what it costs. I don't care if she knows. She's not safe out there without me." Vincent saw it clearly now. Willie Johnson, the untouchable mafia boss, was in love, and it was destroying him. Angela returned to her apartment, shaking with adrenaline. She should feel relieved to be free of Willie's suffocating attention. Instead, she felt hollow. She pulled out the business card with just a phone number, the one she'd never called. Her finger hovered over the digits. Calling it would change everything. She put the phone down. Some bridges needed to stay burned. Late that night, Angela woke to a sound outside her apartment. She peered through the peephole to see one of Willie's men stationed in the hallway. Even fired, even pushed away, she was still being watched. Protected or imprisoned, she no longer knew the difference. In his penthouse, Willie stared at the live feed from the camera outside her door. An empty bourbon glass finally drained. His phone rang. Vincent's voice was urgent. "We have a problem. The Castellano family knows about the girl." The room beneath La Fortuna existed on no blueprints. Willie sat at the head of the scarred wooden table, his knuckles white around a glass of bourbon he hadn't touched. Vincent stood by the steel door, his face grim. The Castellanos know about the girl. The words landed like a death sentence. Willie had dismantled their organization 5 years ago, scattered them like roaches. He'd thought them broken. He'd been wrong. How long have they been watching? Weeks, maybe longer. Vincent slid a folder across the table. They're being careful, waiting. For Willie to show weakness, and he'd handed it to them gift-wrapped. Angela's hands shook as she answered her phone. David's voice cracked through the speaker. Someone came to the rehab center, asking about you, about Dad. The world tilted. Anthony Lupton, not Lupton, her father's real name. The name they'd buried along with him 5 years ago. The name connected to every nightmare she'd spent years running from. What did you tell them? Nothing. But if they're asking questions. David didn't need to finish. They both knew what it meant. The Castellano family never forgot, never forgave. David's testimony had sent their people to prison. The contract on their lives had never been officially lifted, just gone quiet. Until now. Willie stared at the file his investigators had compiled. Angela Lupton, Angela Lupton, Anthony's daughter, David's sister. The pieces assembled into a picture he couldn't look away from. She'd been running from the same people he'd destroyed, running from the fallout of his vengeance. She wasn't random. She was connected to his world all along. His phone rang. An unknown number. He knew her voice before she spoke. They're coming for me, aren't they? Not if I stop them first. Silence stretched between them like a bridge neither wanted to cross. I need to tell you something, Angela said, about who I really am. The church in Brooklyn was empty at noon. Willie had married Isabela here, buried her memory here. Now he would decide if Angela was his redemption or his destruction. She sat in a front pew, hands folded, not praying. She'd forgotten how, years ago, Willie's footsteps echoed as he sat beside her, close but not touching. In the stained glass light, they looked like confessors. Angela told him everything. Her father's crimes, David's testimony, the years of running. I didn't know who you were when I started at La Fortuna, she finished. I swear. Willie's voice was quiet. Your father worked for the Castellanos. I destroyed them. I'm probably the reason he's dead. I know, Angela said. I've known since your first background check. Now Willie spoke. About Isabela, his wife, his light. About the bullet that took her 5 years ago. About the brutal retaliation that followed. How he'd systematically dismantled every Castellano operation until they were broken and scattered. I became the monster they thought I was, he said. Until you. Angela turned to face him. I'm not your redemption project. I'm not Isabela's replacement. You're nothing like her. His voice cracked. You're steel wrapped in exhaustion. You're survival personified. And when I look at you, I see someone who makes me want to be something other than what I've become. Angela should walk away, but she also saw the truth in his words, the vulnerability beneath the violence. If I let you protect me, she said carefully, it doesn't mean I'm yours. I'll take what I can get. They left separately, but as Angela walked to the subway, she noticed Willie's men following. Protection, not imprisonment. For the first time, she didn't fight it. That night, Willie received word. The Castellanos had put a price on Angela's head. Not to kill her, to kidnap her, to break him the way he'd broken them. Vincent asked, "What do you want to do?" Willie's response was chilling in its simplicity. Bring her to the house and prepare for war. The penthouse was a fortress of glass and steel, 30 floors above Manhattan. Angela stood at the window, watching the city blur below. Behind her, Willie's voice was measured. "Your brother's in the medical suite, 2 floors down. I can't afford considerate reparations for what my war cost your family." The words hung between them. Temporary, they both said, just until the threat was neutralized. But temporary had a way of becoming permanent. Living together created unexpected intimacy. Angela discovered Willie read history books at 3 a.m., couldn't sleep without silence. He discovered she baked when anxious, filling the air with rosemary and flour. They orbited carefully, morning coffee, dinners in loaded silence. His staff noticed the change. Willie smiled occasionally, his orders less sharp. Vincent told her privately, "I haven't seen him this alive since Isabela died." When Marco reached out, worried after her disappearance, Angela agreed to meet. Willie sent 2 guards. Marco noticed immediately. "You're in over your head with him." Angela didn't deny it. "It's complicated. I've heard things about Willie Johnson. Dangerous things. I know what he is." Marco hugged her goodbye. Brief, meaningless. Willie's men reported it instantly. She found him in controlled rage. "You saw him. He's my friend. He's a liability." Their voices rose, words meant to wound. Finally, exhausted. "If you want me here, you need to trust me. Otherwise, let me go." Willie's response was barely audible. "I can't." Not won't. Can't. To understand Willie, Angela needed to meet his inner circle. 5 men gathered at La Fortuna's private dining room: Vincent, Sal, Enzo, Dominic, Rico. They were suspicious until Sal dismissed her as a civilian. Angela's response was calm steel. "My father died in your world. My brother testified against it. I've earned the right to sit at this table." The men exchanged glances. Willie watched, something like pride flickering. Later, Sal told him, "She's got a spine. This one could survive anything." Late that night, Angela found Willie on the balcony, staring at city lights. She joined him. "I've been thinking about what you said," he began, "about my jealousy consuming me. You were right. After Isabela, I built walls. Then you appeared, and suddenly I felt everything. It terrified me. You can't control love, Willie, only choose to trust it." "I don't know how." "Neither do I. But maybe we figure it out together." He turned, eyes raw. "I don't deserve you, but I'm too selfish to let you go." She touched his cheek. "Then stop trying to possess me. Start trying to get to know me." The kiss happened without planning. Slow, searching, a question rather than demand. Years of loneliness dissolved. When they broke apart, foreheads touched. "I'm still a monster." "I know," she whispered, "but maybe I can live with that." Vincent burst onto the balcony. "The Castellanos hit our warehouse. 3 men dead." He handed Willie a photo. Angela in crosshairs. Message scrawled, "Trade her for territory, 48 hours." Willie transformed instantly, warmth evaporating. "Double security. No one gets within a mile of this building. Willie, I don't negotiate with dead men." And that's what the Castellanos are. That night, Angela lay awake. She was falling in love with a man who killed without hesitation. The question keeping her awake wasn't whether she could accept that, it was whether she'd already become the same kind of monster by choosing to stay. In his office, Willie made calls, issued orders, prepared for war. Between commands, He glanced at the monitor showing her room. She was awake, staring at the ceiling. He just hoped she'd still be there when the blood washed away. Willie's plan was simple: make the Castellanos believe he'd trade territory for Angela's safety. Draw them out. Eliminate them. "They'll see it coming," Vincent warned. "Let them!" Willie's voice was ice. "I want them to be confident. Then I want them erased." The meeting, La Fortuna, after hours. When Angela learned she'd be used as bait, she refused. "I'm not hiding while you fight my battles. This isn't your battle anymore. If I hide, I'm still invisible," she said. "I thought you saw me, Willie, really saw me. But you still don't trust me to stand beside you." The words cut deep, after tense silence. "Fine, you can be there, but you follow every order." Hours before midnight, Willie's men fortified the restaurant. Angela was given the chef's knife he'd gifted her months ago. Willie strapped it to her thigh. "If anyone gets past us, you don't hesitate." His hands lingered. Their eyes met. "I won't let it get that far." "I know, but I'm not helpless anymore." At midnight, 3 black SUVs arrived. 8 men emerged. Willie waited at a center table with Angela beside him. Vincent and others hidden in shadows. Tommaso Castellano, scarred, dead-eyed, looked at Angela with predatory interest. The famous Angela Lupone. Willie's jaw tightened. "Let's discuss terms." Tommaso wanted 3 territories and immunity. Willie appeared to consider it. Tommaso relaxed. Then Willie saw it. A red dot sweeping across Angela's chest. Backup sniper. The trap reversed. Willie tackled Angela as windows exploded in gunfire. Chaos erupted. Willie's men returned fire. Tables flipped. Glass shattered. Willie shielded Angela, moving toward the kitchen. 2 Castellano soldiers followed. Vincent intercepted one. The other lunged for Angela. Willie shot him. The first time, Angela witnessed him kill. Pinned in the kitchen, Willie bleeding from his shoulder, Angela noticed a man flanking through the wine cellar, positioning to shoot Willie from behind. She didn't think so. Grabbed her knife. When he emerged, she moved. The blade found his side. Willie turned, finished it. He stared at her, blood on her hands. "You saved me. I told you, I'm not helpless." The battle ended when Vincent eliminated the sniper. Tommaso, desperate, grabbed Angela with a gun to her head. "Lower your weapon, Willie." Willie froze, eyes meeting Angela's. She saw him calculating the shot. She mouthed, "Trust me," then dropped her full weight. Tommaso's gun shifted an inch. Willie fired. Bullet through Tommaso's eye. 6 Castellano men dead. 3 of Willie's wounded. Sirens wailing. But Willie's influence would make this disappear. He pulled Angela into his arms. "You could have died." "So could you." Vincent approached. "Boss, we need to move." Willie turned to Angela. "You stood beside me. You fought. You saved my life. I've never had that." She cupped his face, hands trembling. "Because you finally let me see the real you." He kissed her, desperate, grateful. "I love you, Angela. Not as a possession, as the woman who makes me want to be more." Leaving through the back entrance, Angela glanced at the kitchen where she'd worked invisible. Blood stained the tiles now. A baptism. Death of who she was. Birth of who she was becoming. Willie's hand found hers, tattooed fingers intertwining with scarred ones. As they drove away, Angela realized she wasn't invisible anymore. She was seen, known, loved by the most dangerous man in New York. And instead of terrifying her, It felt like freedom. 3 months later, La Fortuna reopened, more beautiful than before. Willie had stepped back from daily criminal operations, delegating to Vincent. The violence that once defined him became a tool used sparingly, not a lifestyle. Angela had returned, but not as a kitchen worker. Willie made her his partner. She studied under a renowned chef, learning the craft she'd dreamed of. The staff treated her with respect, bordering on reverence. She was the woman who stood beside Willie Johnson and survived. David completed physical therapy. Over dinner at the penthouse, he met Willie, awkward at first, knowing what Willie represented, but also knowing Willie saved their lives. "Take care of my sister," David said, leaving. "With my life." After he left, Angela smiled. "He likes you. Doesn't want to, but does." Willie smiled. Real, not predatory. Smart kid. They settled into something that defied categorization. Living together but maintaining separate spaces, working together with clear boundaries. Willie still struggled. When a food critic flirted with Angela, his jaw clenched. But instead of threatening the man, Willie simply took her hand, introduced himself as her partner. The possessiveness remained, tempered by trust. Angela fought for independence, her own account, friendships outside his circle, refusing total absorption. And miraculously, Willie let her. One evening in the rebuilt kitchen, Willie said, "I have something to ask you." Angela's heart skipped, but not marriage. "I want to open a second restaurant, smaller, intimate. Your food, your vision, full creative control. Your name on everything." She was speechless. "Why?" "Because the woman I love deserves to be seen. Not just by me, but by the world." Willie took her to Isabela's grave. First time. Small headstone overlooking water. Angela placed flowers. "I loved her, always will," Willie said. "But I was suffocating her like I almost did to you. Thank you for teaching me the difference between protection and imprisonment." Angela took his hand. "She helped make you who you are. I'm not threatened by that." They honored the past while embracing the future. Marco returned, not an employee, but a guest. He'd opened his own Brooklyn place. The meeting was tense. Two alpha males, history between them. Marco extended his hand. "I never meant to threaten what you had." Willie shook it, visible effort. "You were there when it mattered. That counts." Later, Marco told Angela, "He's still dangerous, still possessive, but he's trying. That's more than most men would do." The final scene mirrored the opening. Angela stood in the kitchen, but this time, her kitchen. The restaurant bearing her name, Angela's. Warm, intimate, filled with copper light and fresh herbs. She prepared a dish, hands confident and sure. On the mezzanine above, Willie Johnson watched. Pinstripe suit, fedora tilted, tattooed hands on the railing. But his expression was different. Not possessive, but proud. Grateful. Humans. Angela felt his gaze, looked up. Their eyes met. She smiled. Equal, not submissive. He mouthed, "I see you." She nodded back. "I know." Willie descended, entering the kitchen quietly. Standing behind her, wrapping arms around her waist, careful not to disrupt her work. "How does it feel? Your dream realized." Angela surveyed her kitchen, her staff, her vision, her team. "Like I finally stopped being invisible and started being invincible." Willie kissed her temple. "You were always invincible, Angela. I just helped you see it." As evening service began, Willie returned to the mezzanine. But now Angela worked knowing she wasn't being watched by a man who wanted to possess her. She was witnessed by a man who learned to love without consuming. The kitchen hummed. Steam rose. Orders called. Angela Lupton, once invisible, now shone, not because a powerful man noticed her, but because she finally noticed herself. Where are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comment below. If you love this story of survival, protection, and unexpected love, subscribe to our channel for more dark romance tales. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support helps us create more content like this. Thank you for being part of community